The Department of Justice, whose entire job is to prosecute crimes, is apparently too busy investigating Democrats' mortgage paperwork to bother prosecuting people who call a congressman's office and threaten to harm his family. The Attorney General, who just 5 months ago pledged the full force of the law against anyone who threatens elected officials, is now running a department that sends form letters to Democratic lawmakers explaining why the guy who left 11 voicemails promising to throw a congressman off a bridge just isn't worth the trouble. So, this week, Attorney General Pam Bondi appeared before the House Judiciary Committee, basically a hearing where Congress gets to question her directly, and it turned into one of the most explosive hearings in recent memory. She called the top Democrat on the committee a washed-up loser lawyer, accused a Holocaust survivor's granddaughter of not caring about anti-Semitism, and at one point started talking about the stock market when asked about the Epstein files. But amid all the chaos, there was a moment that cut through everything, where Congressman Eric Swalwell stopped the political theater, laid out specific, documented threats against himself and his family, and directly asked the Attorney General for help. Let's watch the hearing, and I will give you my take later as always.
Recognizes the gentleman from California.
Great, thank you. Madam Attorney General, you acknowledged earlier to Mr. Johnson that President Trump was mentioned and the release countless times, you said, in the Epstein files. I just want to play a video, though, for you that I think speaks to the frustration that many of these victims have. Of times Trump's name appears in the files, so it could at least be 1,000 times. Is that right?
The number is a total misleading factor. We have not released anyone's name in the Epstein files that has not been credible.
Director, could it at least be 1,000 times?
We have released every piece of legally permissible information.
Okay,
you can characterize the numbers however you want it.
I'm claiming my time, Director. It sounds like if you don't know the number, it could at least be 1,000 times. Which
it's not.
Means
it's not.
Is it at least 500 times?
No.
Is it at least 100 times?
No.
Then what's the number?
I don't know the number.
I understand why the victims are frustrated, and the Attorney General acknowledged what Mr. Patel would not acknowledge, that it was way more than 1,000 times. But I want to move, Madam Attorney General, to weaponization of government. And yesterday it was reported that 6 members of Congress had indictments sought against him, and they were not returned by a grand jury. My colleagues have spoken about their frustration of being in subpoenas and having cell phone records combed through. Well, in 2017 and 2018, Adam Schiff and I had our cell phone records and email records combed through, not by you, but a different Department of Justice under the president. It was in retaliation for our role in the Russia interference campaign. An Inspector General report would find this improper and that the predicate for it was absurd. In 2020, after sitting on 2 committees that were a part of the president's first impeachment, an FBI agent leaked my cooperation in a national security case where my campaign was targeted. The president's FBI senior leadership authorized 2 statements to the press that said I was never suspected of wrongdoing and only helped the investigation. But that didn't stop the death threats or my GOP colleagues from referring me to an ethics investigation where Kevin McCarthy's chairman on the ethics committee would find the same thing as the FBI. Our current FBI director would then write a book called Government Gangsters and identify a long list of enemies. About a quarter of them have been either investigated or indicted. He listed me at the very top, along with Adam Schiff, and during that same testimony, refused to recuse himself when asked if he would recuse if any case came across his desk involving me or people on that list. Since that testimony, his department has put me under investigation with Senator Schiff for the nonsense mortgage fraud cases that we've seen. I get it. This is what the president does. I've priced it in. We have a bingo card at home that my kids have made of what will come next. I expected that the president would come after his enemies. But what I want to talk to you next is serious, and I did not expect this would happen, and I'd like your help on it. The president has inspired death threats against me and many sitting up here with me. In June 2025, an individual left 11 voicemails at my district office. On the voicemails, they said, "Get the message to him. I'm gonna hunt him down, that motherfucker, and toss his ass over the Golden Gate Bridge by my fucking self." Donald Trump's Department of Justice in the Northern District of California declined to prosecute. On May 14, 2025, on Twitter, responding to something I posted, an individual said, "No, it wasn't Eric, and now I'm going to kill you." The Department of Justice from the Southern District of Texas declined to prosecute. May through December of 2025, we received messages at my office that said, "I hope somebody shoots you and your children and your wife in the head. Pew, pew, motherfucker, pew, pew. I would stay indoors as much as possible, and my children, unfortunately, have to do that. The Department of Justice has not charged this individual and cited that he's a prolific caller and has health conditions, although what we have found in our own investigation and his voicemails is that he has said he will employ others to do this. The president can come after me. It's fine. I'm in the arena. So are these folks. But we never expected that the Department of Justice would not seek to prosecute and investigate those who are making threats against us. And that would include those on that side of the aisle. And I'm just asking for your help to protect life, because life is at risk with the environment we're in right now.
Congressman, I completely agree with you. I know about several of those personally involving you. I believe one has been charged publicly, and there's something I would be happy to talk to you about off camera, but I can assure you that they are very serious. They are being looked into, and I can give you more details on those. None of you should be threatened, ever. None of your children should be threatened. None of your families should be threatened. And I will work with, you can come into my office any day. I will work with all of you on both sides of the aisle if you are ever threatened. And I'll gladly talk to you after this hearing about your cases. But I can tell you some of them are very active.
Appreciate that. Now yield back.
Gentleman yields back, and we're sorry for what the gentleman and his family have had to go through. We appreciate what the Attorney General said. And I think some of the things that the gentleman from California related, we can all relate to, and it's unfortunate, it's wrong, as the Attorney General said, and we appreciate the help we get from the Justice Department. With that, we will now recognize the gentleman.
Okay, if you're sitting there right now feeling a very specific kind of fury, the kind where you're angry, but also just deeply unsettled, that's the correct response. Because what you just watched was a member of Congress reading aloud the specific words that people use to threaten his family, and then having to ask the person in charge of law enforcement in this country to please do something about it. So let me give you what you didn't get from that clip. First, what Swalwell is describing isn't some gray area. Under a federal law called Section 115, it is a federal crime punishable by up to 10 years in prison to threaten to assault, kidnap, or harm a member of Congress or their immediate family. The law explicitly covers spouses and children. You don't have to carry out the threat. The mere act of making it is something the DOJ can charge. There's no confusion about what the law says. Calling a congressman's office and making violent threats against his family is, by the plain text of federal law, a felony. And this isn't new territory for Swalwell. A Florida man was actually sentenced to 2 years in federal prison for threatening Swalwell and his children during the Biden administration. So we know these cases can be prosecuted. They just aren't being prosecuted now. According to reporting from Notice, Swalwell is one of multiple House Democrats who say their threat cases have been declined by Trump's DOJ. When she posted on X in September that hate speech that crosses the line into threats of violence would be met with the full force of the law, Swalwell publicly fired back, posting that she had, quote, refused to prosecute multiple direct threats against me and my family. And according to Notice, she then personally called him to ask what he was referring to. The Attorney General of the United States had to be told by the victim about the cases her own department declined. Just really inspiring stuff from the nation's chief law enforcement officer. Now here's where you need to understand the pattern. Swalwell mentioned Kash Patel's book, Government Gangsters. That book has a hit list in the back. Over 60 names of people Patel calls members of the executive branch deep state. As MSNBC reported in September, a significant number of people on that list have since been either investigated or charged, including James Comey, John Bolton, John Brennan, and others. Swalwell told the committee that he was listed at the very top alongside Adam Schiff, and according to the Associated Press and CNBC, Bill Pulte, the Trump appointee running the Federal Housing Finance Agency, referred Swalwell to the DOJ for a mortgage fraud investigation in November. The same type of investigation that's been opened against Schiff, Letitia James, and Lisa Cook. The AP reported that the mortgage fraud effort has been, quote, plagued by missteps, including overhyped allegations that were easily refuted. So let's just state this plainly so you can explain it to anyone who needs to hear it. The same Department of Justice that has the resources to investigate a congressman's home mortgage based on a referral from a Trump appointee working from what the AP describes as an error-riddled political operation is simultaneously telling that same congressman that it can't be bothered to prosecute the people who are threatening his family. The DOJ has enough resources to go after Trump's political opponents on bogus mortgage allegations, but not enough resources to protect their families from violent threats. This shows what they decided to prioritize. So what does this actually mean in practice? It means that right now, if you are a Democratic member of Congress who has publicly criticized this president, you exist in a reality where the federal government will use its full weight to go through your financial records with a fine-tooth comb. But if someone calls your office and threatens your family, you get a letter in the mail saying they've decided to pass. It's like getting a parking ticket for being 2 minutes late on the meter while someone is actively breaking into your car and the cop says, "Not my jurisdiction." And this isn't happening in a vacuum. In June 2025, former Minnesota House Speaker Melissa Hortman and her husband were killed in their home by a gunman dressed as a police officer who carried a target list of Democratic lawmakers. State Senator John Hoffman and his wife were shot in a related attack the same night. This is the environment Swalwell is describing. One where political violence against Democratic officials has already turned lethal, and the Justice Department's response to ongoing threats is essentially a shrug. And for what? So that the DOJ can keep up the act that investigating the mortgage documents of Trump's most vocal critics is a legitimate law enforcement priority? The DOJ is now investigating the handling of the Schiff mortgage probe because people may have impersonated federal agents to help build the case. The Comey and James indictments have already been tossed by a federal judge who found that the temporary prosecutor who brought the cases, a former insurance lawyer and Trump aide with no prosecutorial experience, was never legally appointed in the first place. This is what they're spending their time on. A retribution project that is literally falling apart in court, while a congressman's children have to, in Swalwell's words, stay indoors as much as possible. It's worth noting that according to a notice report from September, the U.S. Capitol Police cited a 2023 Supreme Court ruling called Counterman v. Colorado as raising the bar for threat prosecutions. But legal experts have been clear. Counterman didn't make it impossible to prosecute threats. It said that prosecutors need to show the person making the threat knew or should have known that what they were saying would be taken as a real, serious threat, not just someone venting. When someone leaves 11 voicemails at a congressional office, explicitly threatening violence against a lawmaker, that clearly meets the legal standard. I'm not a lawyer, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express once, and even I can see that those voicemails clear the legal line. Here's where things stand. She promised in that hearing room to help. She said the right things. Jim Jordan even chimed in to say he's sorry for what Swalwell's family is going through. But she also promised in September, after Charlie Kirk's killing, that threats against elected officials would be met with the full force of the law. And then Swalwell's cases were declined anyway. So the question isn't whether she said the right thing on camera. The question is whether a Department of Justice that has organized its priorities around punishing the president's critics can be trusted to protect them at the same time. And the deeper, more uncomfortable question is this. If the DOJ won't prosecute violent threats against members of Congress because those members happen to be on the wrong side of the president's target list, then we don't have a Department of Justice. We have a Department of Leverage. And no amount of nice words in a hearing room changes that. Although, for the record, I'd still prefer a DOJ that protects families over one that audits Democrats' mortgages, but apparently that's just me being unreasonable. If you found this breakdown helpful, leave a comment and tell me what you think. Make sure to like and share this video so more people can see it. Click the bell icon and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.